But if you're living at under 30% of your income, your cost of living has to be 70% less than what you're currently spending. Makes you stop and think. Because it's not about cutting out all of the bare necessities in life until you end up doing without. It's about finding a way to get what you want and as well as what you need for lesser, cheaper cost. Save more, spend less. That's right. And that's a commonly impactful method. If you save more, if you spend less, you inadvertently save more. That's the irony there. There's a lot of impulse buys that you can make in life. There's a lot of things that you can rationalize, like, I want this, I need this. And then when you get it, you barely even use it. And then there are a lot of things that you get just for the prestige, name brand clothes, shoes, cars. Then there's things that you get to show off, like oversized houses and everything to that effect. Maintenance costs on these things outrageous. I was just talking to a guy at the mechanic shop yesterday about his Tesla, and he's got a $15,000 battery he had to replace. What's 75,000 miles into ownership of the vehicle, and he's driving 35,000 miles a year on the vehicle. So he had the car for 2.5 years, and he had to replace a $15,000 battery on the car. Car costs $150,000. Now, luckily for him, it was under warranty, but if he holds the car for another 2 years, it'll be outside of warranty. And it would have exhausted its natural life expectancy for a battery, because batteries are supposed to last 200,000 miles or 2 to 5 years. He killed his battery in 2.5 years. But that I explained to him, like, damn, bro, that $15,000 battery replacement is the same price as a Nissan Versa, a whole brand new car. Like, I just came out of nowhere. I'm just like, yeah, there's a $15,000 car out there that's the same price as your battery. So the price of your car plus the price of your battery, you could have bought 10 Nissan Versas and alternated them out, having 9 cars in your yard unregistered, and just swap out whichever vehicle you want to use whenever you want to use it. And probably not have to service anything for a very long time either, because if you've got a fleet of vehicles in your yard, that's the dynamic of things when we start thinking about inflation and oversized thinking. But today we're going to break down the real numbers behind a small town life to figure out if leaving the city is the secret to building wealth or just a fast track to being broke. We're going to challenge what it actually means to be wealthy in the modern world. Now, let's start with number one reason people think about leaving the city: the promise of lower cost living, next to lower crime observations. It sounds simple, right? Everything's supposed to be cheaper, but the reality is way more nuanced. And if you don't get the details right, you could end up in a worse spot than before. Lower cost of living is a blanket statement. So let's pull it apart piece by piece, starting with the biggest expense for most of us, which is housing. In America, housing is about 68% of our standard of living. The difference in housing costs is without a doubt the most dramatic advantage of a small town life. It's not a small gap, it's a life-altering chasm. So while it's true that the remote work boom has caused rural home prices to climb, the affordability gap remains enormous. Shit, I hate neighbors too. I could be in an apartment, I could be in a corner apartment where there is one neighbor on the other side of my wall, and that neighbor is quiet. I could have a neighbor on the other side of my wall, and that neighbor is quiet. I could have such a peaceful and quiet neighborhood that I rarely ever interact or even hear my neighbors. But god dang it, that parking lot is a son of a bitch. It is not reserved parking. It is first come, first serve, and everybody's got 3 to 5 cars, and you've got more cars in one location than there are spaces. No, I don't like it. If you got your own place, you can put your car off in the yard. You can put your other car off in the back, and you can put the car in the back and cover both of the cars up. You can put them in a shed and bury them, and nobody even know you're there, and be living the covert life, right? Not in the complex. So I got to tell you, I have never been a fan of neighbors. I'm not going to be mean to them, I just don't like them. Michael says land is cheaper in the country. Land is totally cheaper in the country. Per acre, you get larger quantities of land for the one-time purchase of the land in comparison to the monthly service fee of a property that you rent. You might find the mortgage for a quarter acre or 3/4 acre piece of property with a 2,000 square foot, 3,000 square foot house on it, the same price as a 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom apartment. That is anywhere between 750 and 1,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet. Crazy, crazy. You get more, and if you go buy a house that's on some farmland, you can get 3 to 5 acres for the same price as that 3/4 acre lot with an even bigger house. 1.5 acres, 26,000 cash. Well, if you're buying just the land with no house on it, yeah. But if you're buying 1.5 acres with a house on it, that 1.5 acres might be 260,000, depending on the house. Could be cheaper, could be 50 to 75,000. 1.5 acres in Tacoma, can't afford it. I can't afford $26,000 of dry land. I need a house on that bad boy. Now, after you've acquired your homestead, then you can go buy as much acreage as possible. But this idea of buying 1.5 acres of land is going to work out in our favor for what we're about to talk about today. Build your own house. Yeah, you say that, but building your own house costs $250,000 to build from the ground up, and it usually takes 6 to 18 months to complete. And you're paying rent somewhere until you do it. So why not buy a house that's already built, then get your 1.5 acres of land and try to build you a house that takes up 75% of that land while you're living in your own house. Then you can rent out the house that you originally bought, move into the bigger house, and the bigger house will be able to leverage the cost of the smaller house, and the tenant will pay the mortgage. Because if you think, how big of a house can you put down on 1.5 acres if an acre usually has a 3,000 square foot house on it? If you got 3 acres or 1.5 acres, you might have a 6,000 square foot house on 1.5 acres. You might have a 6,000 square foot house 2 stories high. Stay in the van while build made sacrifices. Some people can do that. Some people can make those sacrifices. Others need move in ready, because you can also find some places that got good deals. Buy one house, get one house free, and all you got to do is renovate both of them. If you're willing to live in one of the houses that's half-ass complete and fix both of them. Yeah, you can do it. You can get you into a shack and build it up to a mansion. Yeah, you can do it. You can buy a big house, mow it down, and then put up 3 mini homes. Yeah, you can do it. And then rent out those mini homes, you know. But when you start talking about your own comfortable place to live, some people might not want to make that sacrifice. For example, let's look at some recent data that's shown that predominantly rural states like West Virginia and Mississippi have median home prices under 200,000, whereas in urbanized cities like New York and California, you're looking at figures that are dramatically higher. Oh, he said buy a trailer. I know you're kidding right now. I know truth is though, like you could buy a trailer or a mobile home, RV, and a Ford F-150 to tow it with, Dodge Ram 3500 to pull it off, and you can go to an RV park and you can put your trailer there and you can live there for a while. You're still renting the land that the RV is on. Your 1.5 acres that you were just talking about for $26,000, if you turned that into an RV plot, you could put running water through there, develop it, and then connect some electricity, put you some little concrete slabs there to, space off each individual plot. And then as they pull up, they can just pull up and park, take advantage of some of and you could be charging like $150, $200 a night for the RV park, or $300, $400 a month for a trailer park, whatever you want to do, and rent your land out and make a shit ton of money where it's very little maintenance. All you got to do is just get paid when they pull up. So there is ways, and we're going to be getting into more unorthodox ways to do this. But let's make this real. We're going to forget abstract stats for just a second. Imagine two people, let's say an urban John and a rural Nancy, both in their early 30s, and both have saved up down payments for their first home. Urban John loves or lives in like the major city, and with his budget, he's looking at a 700 square foot 1-bedroom condo in a decent but not prime neighborhood. Now you got to understand that a condo is an apartment. You just have the deed to it. And that's going to be an hour-long journey from his condo to his house, or to his job. Now the building is about 30 years old, kitchen needs an update, and his outdoor space, quote unquote outdoor space, is the tiny balcony overlooking the concrete courtyard. His mortgage, property taxes, and HOA fees add up to about a staggering $3,500 a month, right? And honestly, he feels lucky to have even found that in that particular location. Now, what I said, rural Nancy, living in a town of about 15,000 people. Now, I got to tell you, here in Florida, with several million people in Tampa, a population of 15,000 would look like a ghost town around here. But for the exact same housing budget that John had with his condo, Nancy would buy 2,200 square foot 4-bedroom house on a 1/4 acre lot. And that house has a 2-car garage, a modern kitchen, and a backyard with a deck, and the mortgage and the property taxes with no HOA fees required at $1,400 a month. That's the difference in dynamic. This isn't an exaggeration. So while you were saying, oh yeah, just buy you a cheap plot of land for $26,000 and then live out the back of your vehicle for 2 years while they build a $250,000 house, when you could have bought you a $150,000 house that was ready to move in, or you could have bought you a $75,000 house that you could have lived in and renovated, In all situations, there's no reason why you had to live in your vehicle for 2 years until they build you a house from the ground up for the same price as a house that already exists with plenty of acreage that is ready to move in, modernized by the last fix and flipper. So you got to understand that this is a reality for millions. The difference isn't just the money, it's a fundamental change in the quality of life. So Nancy has space to grow, home office, guest rooms, place for the dog to run around. John has a massive monthly payment for a space that feels temporary and tight. The ability to get so much more house for your money is the cornerstone for a small town financial advantage. But housing is just one piece of the puzzle. What about the cost? This is where it gets complicated. You might assume that with a bigger house, that Nancy's utility bills would be higher, and you'd be partially right. But surprisingly, the truth is that rural households often face a higher energy burden, meaning they spend a larger chunk of their income on energy if you're not living off the environment. Because I can tell you, just last month, my light bill was looking at me, and I was looking at my light bill, and I was like, no, because it said $65. And I was like, no, because I got lights on 24/7 in 2, 3 rooms, AC going, but it ain't going. It's an AC is around about 72 to 78, and I ain't got them. Water bills almost negligible, gas bills obsolete, dirt cheap. Gotta love it. Um, Michael's saying save 300 per rent to live in a van and save $3,600. Shower at a state park. I mean, yeah. How much was your electricity bill? I said $65. 6500. I'm not joking. I looked at it and I was like, what? What? And normally I overpay it. Normally I just put down $100 and just be like, it'll be all right. They'll call me if they need money. And when I looked at it, it is low as hell. Yeah. Yeah. You surprised and I was surprised too. You were surprised and I was surprised too. But see, the thing is that I typically turn off a lot of stuff and just leave the doors and windows open and just get off the breeze because we out there in Apollo Beach. So what's your average bill? 94 when I'm really burning it, but typically 70 to 85. I don't do 120. I don't do 120 because again, like the hottest part of the day when I'm in the house, I might have the AC burning. But then that's it because I'll turn the AC off and then I just let it slide. $30. How much is the water? $30. Ain't got that much water going on. It's not like I'm gonna be in the shower for 4 hours. Got a washer and dryer here that's industrial. Get everything done. Uh, the I do believe they're LG washer and dryers. So the electricity is very low, water's very low. I can cover the entire cost for less than some people pay for their car insurance. You mean it's cheaper to live in Florida? No, it's not cheaper to live in Florida. It's cheaper. You can go in other places and it can be even cheaper than that, especially if you don't mind the weather. If you go to places like Missouri, where it's cool, more often than not, you might need the heater in the wintertime, but you might deal with whatever weather they got during the rest of the year, where you might only actually burn $100 to $200 electric bills for 3 months out of the year, and then the rest of the year, whatever lights you have going during your house is probably all your bill is going to be, because your bill actually, for example, we've got Thanksgiving coming, we're going to have Christmas coming, and from Halloween until Christmas, people got Christmas lights up. All of those lights outside of the house got your light bill $300 a month until New Year's, right? Those people who put their porch lights on at night, your light bill is going to be higher than people who don't use their porch lights. If you got a front porch and a back porch light on, you might run on average $220 a month with your AC on 24/7 using central air and heat, and then 3 to 5 lights on in your house on a regular basis. So it's not necessarily cheaper to live in Florida. It's cheaper to change the way you use your house. Are you living in a condo or an apartment? That's funny. So there isn't that many apartments in Apollo Beach. um, Actually, because you might know, off of Big Bend Road, if you go all the way down to the other side, there's a nice little cul-de-sac over there with about 300 houses in that area, and they're 4-bedroom houses, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, with a gigantic pond in the back. No pool, but a gigantic pond in the back. Yeah, that's where it's at. But again, opening the windows and the doors, double slide glass door, open it up, and just let the wind blow. And since the wind is blowing off the water, you got the cool breeze through most of the day, outside of the hottest parts of the year. And then during the winter, because it doesn't get that cold in Florida, you know, is the alligator in the pool? I wouldn't say an alligator, but if there were, I mean, I got dogs. So they will let me know that the alligator is coming, and then I'll just shoot him from afar. Now, some reports show that rural houses spend around 4.4% of their income on energy, compared to a 3.3% national average. And this can be due to older housing stock, less energy efficient infrastructure, and fewer provider choices. So while your mortgage might be cut in half, your heating bill could be a bit of a shock, depending on how you do things. Because if you've got energy efficient light bulbs, if you are using your electricity only when you need it, like I wear glasses because I'm light sensitive. So when I'm not doing this podcast, I don't necessarily need lights on unless I'm working with my students doing a video call. So when I'm not at work, all the lights are off in the house. I'm walking around in the dark. I got the microwave running, which doesn't take that much power, electric stove, which doesn't take that much power. So for one person, it's not a lot of to do. So when you think about it, if you're not operating like that, you might want to look around your house and see how much stuff you got burning, Mike, and turn some of that stuff off. Turn your porch light off. You ain't welcoming no neighbors. You already said earlier you hate neighbors. Next up, we're going to talk about transportation. In the city, John gets by with monthly transit passes. You know, in Florida, what they was like $65, $70 a month. Might not ever own a car, saving thousands of dollars a year. Now, Nancy, reliable car isn't a luxury. It's a non-negotiable necessity, because there's no subways, there's no public transportation. and the nearest big grocery store is about 15-minute drive away. So that's a long ass walk or a bike, right? So this means car payments, car insurance, unless if you own the car, that's not going to have car payments, but you might have to lease to buy or something like that, pay to own or something like that. Though often cheaper than the big city, getting car insurance, gas, and maintenance, a whole nother issue. You got to take care of those things. Now, those costs could easily add up $500 to $800 a month or more. I pay $200 a month. Actually, it's like $180 a month for the car insurance, so it's not really all that expensive. But some people are paying $400 to $800 a month for their car insurance. Toll roads in Florida will make you broke. Well, toll road. If you take the Veterans Expressway, if you're taking the Selman Expressway, if you're rushing back and forth into Miami, you're gonna get got by them tolls, and there's nothing you can do about it besides get your sun pass. But if you're inner Tampa, if you're just from downtown to USF and back, or if you're going into Wesley Chapel, Zephyr Hills, if you're taking Bruceby Downs and going into New Tampa instead of jumping on the interstate, you know what I mean, you're less likely to get hit by a toll. If you come out of downtown, going down Ybor City and bank up 50th Street, you ride 50th Street on up, you know what I'm saying? There ain't no tolls over there. So if you know where the tolls are, if you know where the toll roads are, you native to this area, you can navigate around and not have to pay those tolls. But if you're trying to find the quickest way to get to where you got to go, or if you're 100% relying on your GPS, it will take you the fastest route, and sometimes that fastest route might make you pay a toll. Just you save gas to get there, but you spend more money to get there. Now that extra $500 to $800 a month in a rural neighborhood, in a rural state, might be chipping away at the savings that you're getting off of the house. And then there's going to be a cost of everyday stuff like groceries, toiletries, and food. Now, the common belief is that these are always cheaper in smaller towns, but that's actually a myth. So while you might find cute roadside stands with cheap produce in the summer, your weekly grocery bill at the town's only supermarket might be higher than you think. So with less competition, prices can be inflated because who the fuck's gonna go up against them? Right. It's not true. It's gonna be expensive. Some have pointed out that an item costs $2.50 in the city, with many stores that could be priced higher in a rural area due to the distribution costs, because they got to pay so much money to get it into town. You got to pay extra money to get it in your pocket. I order stuff and get it delivered. Walmart.com is my friend. Well, the flip side, right, is what you spend on fun, right? See, he said I just traveled 19 miles to the big city and go to Walmart, or I could just order it on the app and just let somebody else drive that 19 miles to Walmart and bring that shit back. I ain't going. 19 miles ain't far though. 19 miles ain't far. But when I was staying out there in the inner Tampa area, because out here in Apollo Beach, like, you got it. Woo! Because they got a Walmart in Valrico, which is closer, like on the other side of Brandon. But I actually like the Walmart over on Bear side. So that's like hour to the grocery store. Hour at like 80 miles an hour. You just to get over there to the grocery store to come back, right? So it's a toss up. But they do still have. But again, like I said, I order my stuff to come. It saves me money because When you order it and you got free delivery, I can order something 3 times a week, get it dropped off at the house. And since it don't snow in Florida, I don't got to worry about being snowed in. Now, Urban John is constantly surrounded by temptations. You've got world-class restaurants, rooftop bars, concerts. Like, didn't we just have an event in downtown a couple weeks ago, right? Oh yeah, but some people pay for convenience, but I save money on convenience. I try to drive my car 30 miles a week. Round trip. I try to drive my car 30 miles a week. That's it. 35 miles maybe, because I might want to make a detour to take the dog to the bathroom. Now, a casual dinner for two in the city can easily hit $150. Nancy's Town has a few family-owned diners and a local brewery. So a great night out might cost about $50, which is a third of the price. Entertainment is more likely to be high school football game or backyard barbecue with the neighbors. The financial truth of cheaper living is a mosaic of trade-offs, because you gain a huge advantage in housing. You probably save on insurance and some taxes, because in some areas you can get the homestead tax credit, and the homestead tax credit could be higher than the taxes owed on your property. And if that's the case, you don't have to pay taxes on your homestead. And if your age reaches a certain limit, you can qualify for the tax exemption, where they put a hold on reevaluating your property for taxes as long as you don't improve the value of your house more than 25% over a period of time. Which means that whatever your tax value is for your house, it stays that way till you die. And the tax credit will continue to pay the taxes on your house until you die, which means you don't pay taxes on your house. Now, that only works in small towns, because if you go into an area where your house is $1 million and the taxes on your house is $10,000, and the tax credit only cover like $1,000 or $500, you still got $4,000 that you gotta pay for your homestead. So you gotta think about that. But with these trade-offs, you take on new mandatory costs for transportation, and you might face surprisingly high prices for utilities and some goods. But if you know how to manage it, those utilities won't hurt you as much as the big city. The net result is usually a win, but only if you go in with a realistic budget. So your expenses will likely drop in a small town. But here's the big question that stops most people from trying this. What about your salary? What good is a lower cost of living if your income gets slashed by 40%? This is the core conflict, which is one of the reasons why being a digital nomad is very effective for this particular type of life-changing experience. So let's be honest. For most jobs, if you take a local position in a small town, you will take a massive pay cut. The data is clear. According to a 2023 U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income in a rural area is roughly $14,000 less than an urban median. Cities are magnets for high-skilled, high-paying industries, creating a cycle of higher wages. This is where most people stop. They see a lower number on a job offer and think, I'll be poor. But this is a critical mistake. They're looking at the absolute dollar amount, not at its power. This is where we need to talk about lifestyle affordability. Lifestyle affordability isn't just about how much you make, it's about what you're earning lets you do as well as how much you're capable of saving. Like Michael said earlier, spend less, save more. It's your disposable income after all the necessary bills are paid. It's the freedom to build wealth. He said happy Halloween. So, how many of y'all have been out there tricking? I mean, trick or treating. But if they up there on Bush Boulevard, you probably out there tricking. How many of y'all out there selling your candy instead of taking your kids to go get stuff for free? Look, it ain't. It's somebody's gonna get a treat, but you out there tricking y'all. Let's see what y'all doing this year. Now, let's go back to John and Nancy with some real numbers. These are just some examples, of course, because the numbers will vary depending on what you're willing to do versus what you need to do. Not the eye candy. Yeah, especially the eye candy. Because here in Halloween time, every female over the age of 14 always got to put on some type of sexy whatever costume on instead of just dressing damn normal. It cheerleader, nurse, some type of Marvel superhero that's spandex, latex, showing all their goodies. And the dudes just be out there looking normal. Witches can't get pregnant because their husbands have Halloweenies. The witches can't get pregnant because the witches are on birth control. and, and their husbands work at Wendy's. Now, Urban John, being a marketing manager in a big city, can earn $110,000 a year. After taxes, his take-home pay is roughly $6,500 a month. Now, rural Nancy is also a market manager at a regional company in a small town, and that salary is roughly about $70,000 a year. And after taxes, the take-home pay there is about $4,500 a month. So John is crashing out. He's bringing back $2,000 more than Nancy. But now let's take a look at their budgets. Alex is $6,000, or John's $6,500 here. He's got a house that's like $3,500 a month. Utilities around $800. Transportation's $130. Food and social life another $800. And he got student loans at about $400 a month. Total expenses $5,630. After all of the essentials is paid for, now John is left with like $870. This is his disposable income for savings, investing, vacations, clothes, emergencies. He earns six figures but feels perpetually broke. Now, Nancy, $4,500. House is $1,400, utilities is $600, transportation is $600, food is $500, still them student loans is $400, expenses is $3,500 a month, and after everything's paid for, Nancy's got $1,000 in her pocket. So let that sink in for a second. He said, "No, cost of living is higher in town." That's right. In the city, cost of living is higher. This is like if you're not being extremely wasteful, though. This is like if you don't have smoking and drinking habits that you got to pay for because cigarettes at $10 a box, $100 or $120 a carton, and you're buying 2 cartons or 3 cartons a month, depending on, because if you it I do believe they come 12 in a box, and if you buy the carton and you're smoking 2 a day, you should smoke the carton inside of 6 days, which means that out of um, 24 days, you would have bought 4 cartons. And that is basically saying you would have bought 5 cartons inside of a month. And if you're doing those calculations at like $120 times 5 cartons, that's $600 extra dollars, which would have came out of his $800 because I said he had like 870. And then if he was buying a couple cases of beer every now and again until he ran out of money, the remaining $270 that he wasn't spending on cigarettes, he would have been spending on beer, and he would have been broke. He would have been broke. No emergency funds, no what if I need to change out a spare tire funds, just that serious, right? Is that they both can have happiness, live on the edge of town. Well, see, I was going to get to that because if you live within commuting distance of your job, but your house is outside of the big city where the cost of living is cheaper, but you're still making that $100,000 a year, you actually doing better. But you're going to spend 2.5 hours on the road to save that money. But I mean, if you had an extra $30,000 a year coming in and your standard of living wasn't going to be that much, probably want to take it. But despite earning $40,000 less per year, after accounting for radical differences in living costs, Nancy has more disposable income than John. That commute is a son of a bitch. And Nancy is in a far stronger financial position. So the house is a bigger asset, and the opportunity to rent out spare rooms for $500 a month is an instant boost in disposable income. So if you live alone and you got a 4-bedroom house, you can rent out 2 of the rooms and rent out each room for $500 a month and have 2 roommates that's paying $1,000 a month towards your house, which will give you an extra $12,000 a year. And if you have multiple cars and they paid $300 a month to use your car, which will cover the increase in the car insurance, and they put gas in the car, you would end up making a profit off of the extra cars in the yard. You would make up for whatever they're using around the house. Or a buddy ride with people that live close to you, split the cost. It's a win-win. That only works if you live in town, bro. If you live in Apollo Beach and you work in downtown, the only way you catching rides with somebody and splitting the cost is if they also live in Apollo Beach. If you live in Apollo Beach, if you live in Sarasota and you trying to work in Apollo Beach and everybody that's working in Apollo Beach is coming from Tampa, who the hell gonna take you home? Ain't even no buses going that way, bro. If you trying to go to a cheaper area, now what you trying to say is like if you stayed in Valrico where it's a little cheaper than what it is over in Brandon area, you stay off into the far east side of Valrico, and then you work closer to downtown, then you can hop a ride with somebody that's heading to downtown, and then you can get into downtown cheaper. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But usually you don't look out like that. If I was young again, man, I'm trying to remember when you was young. In today's social, I would go bid with 4 friends on a cheap ride, and we shared a car. But see, that's the thing. Back when we was younger, we had responsible friends. That would make sense. We would all put in. We would buy a car. We would share it. We would be co-owners of the vehicle. We would have one insurance policy and split the bill. And then everybody, we mostly all went to the same places together, but we probably just had different work schedules if we didn't all work on the same job. And one person would drop somebody off and we would alternate. That's how the Mexicans do it. They'll put 40 people into an apartment, put 40 people in the back of a Winnebago and then save their money until all 40 of them is driving a brand new F-250 paid up front until ISIS came and snatched them off their job. Now their truck is up for sale at the auction. Are you saying kids today are not smart? Yes. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Kids today are not just not smart, they are selfish. So they're not going to share their assets with anybody. They're going to get it themselves so that they can say it's theirs. They're going to be overly possessive about it. Some of them are spoiled, so they don't have to get it themselves. Their mama and daddy got it for them, or their mama and daddy gave them the old car that they had and went and got themselves a new one. And the kids don't have responsibility. They weren't taught self-sufficiency. So they're not going to think, oh, we can pool our money together and go get an SUV that we can share. We can all fit in. We can all go to the store together. We can all save money together. We can all get a 4-bedroom apartment and split it 4 ways together. We can come up together. If we're spending 1/4 the standard of living, if the lifestyle cost, what he said, out of 80 out of 100,000, he spent almost 84,000. If the lifestyle costs 84,000 and we split in that 4 ways, each one of us is only spending like 21,000. But if we making 100,000 a person and each of us is only spending 21,000 because we split in the cost of living here, then we would be putting away a large quantity of money. We would be living under 30% of our standard of living. You see what I'm saying? So most of the young folks don't know that responsibility. They typically only have that thought when they get into a romantic relationship with somebody that's gonna have on the bills. We live together, we smash, we end up having kids together. Now we got financial obligations. We don't want to part because we can't afford to pay for 2 separate houses and we can't afford to pay for babysitters and all this other stuff. So we just stay together in a dysfunctional relationship. That's what happens these days, but that's not necessarily how you got to put it down. Is a road trip, grab the weed and beer. But see, if you were smart and you went and got you a 4-acre piece of property, and you could do this one or two ways. You could either just dry grow it or get you some hydroponic containers, put them on your property, and then sell it to the dispensary. You can have you some free weed that pays you enough money where you can actually take some of that weed and make you some weed beer, and you've got free weed and free beer at your house. Where you don't got to go to work every day because your job would be to grow weed in your backyard. I don't understand why. And you got some states in the United States that are dispensary states, so you can not just dispensary states, distribution states. So you can actually legally grow. You got to get some certifications and shit, but you can legally grow your own stuff in your own backyard and make you a ton of money off of it. And you ain't got to small time it, nickel and bagging illegally on the side of the road. You can just FDA approve large quantities in bricks and truck that stuff off to dispensaries that are going to nickel and dime it out of a storefront. With the way we got things going in the United States, there is a legal way to do everything, but you could be making money doing that. Washington State, you can have 2 plants. Yeah. Not every state is a distribution state, but there are enough distribution states that you can go to a state that's got the accessibilities for large land mass. And then you got to think about where you're doing this, because they're talking about 2 plants. 2 plants is a lot of weed for one person, first and foremost. But secondly, 2 plants in an apartment complex. You don't need, without a permit. Oh, okay, yeah. See, I wasn't even thinking about without a permit. I was thinking about, yeah, you got to get you some permits and stuff to do this. because I wasn't thinking about 2 plants. I was thinking about 2,000, 200,000 plants. Talking about mass production, trying to have enough plants. We get you some workers that work for weed, so you just give them a couple buds every day and let them go on by. Come on, Smokey. Ooh, ooh. Now, back to what we were talking about with Mary's, not Mary, Nancy's garage. Uh, Nancy got a garage that got 2 cars in. You can do repairs in the car. You can do that in the yard if you wanted to, or you can just fix the cars in the garage. You don't have to always take them to the mechanic shop. And with 2 cars, you can take one out and leave one there. You can take the one that runs and do what you got to do, and leave the one at the house is broken, fix it until it runs, and then you can swap them back out. You got a yard. Since you got a yard, you can put a vegetable garden up there, and with a vegetable garden, you can save money on groceries. You also, with a vegetable garden, you can sell some of your vegetables to people nearby and make you some money off of that. He said 2,000 plants is an apartment complex. Happy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That mass production. And this is going to give Nancy some breathing room, because if they lose their job, the monthly nest egg is like $3,500 a month, which is not that terrifying, because in comparison to $5,630, living less stressful. If you've already got other ways to bring in that $3,500 a month, you can actually subsidize your standard of living until you can get your money up. You're not going to end up being in survival mode if you got furloughed in October, and you're able to find a position to build. Now, this whole picture gets supercharged by the biggest economic shifts of our generation with remote work. Projections estimate that by the end of 2025, over 35 million Americans could be working remotely. So if you're one of those people like me who can take a city salary to a low-cost area, the game completely changes as long as you got some damn good internet service. That's what I said. Government still shut down. We ended Friday on a shutdown. Hopefully, we start up on Monday with a turn up, but not likely. Now imagine a third person, remote Rachel. She has John's salary of $110,000 in her city, but has Nancy's small town lifestyle. Now, the take-home pay here is even higher without that city income tax, say $6,800 monthly. So, in this situation, Rachel can buy the house like Nancy, so that her monthly expenses are around $3,500 a month. After bills are paid, remote Rachel is left with $3,300 every single month, nearly $40,000 a year in pure disposable income. Now, that money to max out retirement accounts is fantastic. You can put that in investments. You can utilize that to travel. Achieving a level of financial freedom that John and Nancy could only dream of. Remote work has decoupled earning potential from geography, and it's an incredible, powerful catalyst for building wealth. He said, I better hit Walmart before the third snap. Go on Section 8. Well, if you already got benefits, the money gonna already be there. If you don't already got benefits, they might not release them to you this week. So you might not see nothing this week or next week. So really and truly, next week and the week after, during the drought, when people stop buying groceries, Walmart might actually start putting their groceries on sale. So you might not want to rush out to the store on the 3rd. You might want to wait until the 20th when between the 15th and the 20th when people food stamps run out and ain't nobody buying stuff in the grocery store. When the grocery stores start having a surplus of expiring items, you can run in there and start cleaning up. Buy up the whole store at a fraction of the price. And then have you an abundance of groceries that you can live off of when prices go back up. A higher savings rate is going to be a great start. But true wealth is about making your money work for you. So the narrative is that cities are where the opportunities are. And the reality is that cities are where opportunities are hyper competitive. In a small town, you can be a big fish in a small pond. Let's start with entrepreneurships. Starting a business in a major city is brutally expensive. In a small town, the barrier to entry is dramatically lower. Think about the basic needs of the community. Do your town have a really good coffee shop? A place for people to gather and work? Often, answer is no. You can open one on Main Street for a fraction of the cost of a city lease. What about a food truck? You can go where people are. The farmers market, the high school football games, the summer festival, local bakery, an ice cream shop, a craft brewery. He said MREs. You can do those. These aren't just businesses now. They are community staples that people are dying to support. And they're going to really be dying over the next couple of weeks. Go ahead, shit. Service businesses thrive on word of mouth, which travels like wildfire in a small town, especially if you're new to the area. Think pet grooming and reliable handyman or cleaning service. The startup costs are minimal, and you can also leverage your professional skills. If you were marketing consultants in the city, you can become marketing experts for everyone in a small business in a 50-mile radius. You can cover all of the small businesses in a 50-mile radius. He said, in small towns, they know you by name. Hi, Mike. Oh, like Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Yes. Yes. I had that happen the other day. We walking through the store and they over there talking to my grandpa like he knew her. I'm sitting over here like, how you know these little jitter boys? I didn't know what's going on. But here we go. The second pillar is real estate investing because we always talk about that. It's always a thing. You got to figure out a way to get in there. Michael was talking about it at the top of the show. Get you some land. It's always a thing. In the city, owning a second property is a pipe dream for most people. In a small town, it's an achievable goal. A brilliant strategy is house hacking. You buy a duplex, live in one unit, and rent out the other, right? Rent from your tenant can cover most or even all of your mortgage. You are essentially living for free while building equity. This one move can eliminate your biggest monthly expense and fast track your path to financial freedom. He said, I'm in the pipe dream. And remember that time in Tampa where they found all them bodies in the pipes? They weren't dreaming then. Uh, Finally, think about creative and unorthodox hustles. Unique small town life can benefit from these. And you want to make sure that you're trying to find a kind of hustle that's not going to kill you all day and all night trying to get you to make $1. You understand? Agritourism is booming. If you have a bit of land, you could start a you pick berry, like pick yourself berry patch or a pumpkin patch because we had Halloween coming up in the fall, or even a small lavender field. You can also create a community support agriculture, a CSA program, curating and delivering weekly boxes of fresh local food for a subscription fee. The common thread here is a lower barrier to entry and way less competition. In a rural area where, like me, folks don't like to go all that way out there to go get stuff, if You pay a certain quantity of money per week, drop you off a box of groceries every week, pick up next week's payment. Be there every and then when it starts looking like the weather might be bad, I drop off a couple of extra weeks to cover during the cold, and you advance payment for them couple extra weeks, and then I see you when the snow melt. They say my hassle is doing painting and garage and estate sales. That's some good hustles. That's some good hustles. Uh, your biggest advantage, because I actually used to do painting too. I actually used to paint some of the um, store complexes out in New Tampa, right there off of Bruce Vidal's, and that was exhausting because I was literally out there with like a paintbrush. I was not the roller. I was out there with the paintbrush. I was doing the trim and everything. It was crazy. Um, but your biggest adventure in small towns isn't just the lower cost of living. It's the opportunity to see a need and fill it. Now, it would be irresistible to paint a small town life as a perfect financial paradise, but it's not. I'm not going to be irresponsible. I'm going to tell you there are very real downsides that you can have to consider. The biggest is the lack of specialized job opportunities if you're trying to work in person. If you can't work remotely and you're, say, a biotech patient attorney or a top tier cancer researcher, your career lives in a major city. You're not going to be able to call yourself relocating without retiring. The jobs simply don't exist in a town of like 10,000 people or less. For many ambitious professionals, moving without a remote job means a career change, not just a compromise, right? Second is the lack of amenities and convenience. In the city, you're spoiled for a choice. In a small town, your options are limited. The one grocery store might not carry what you need, and you might have to realize the nearest Target might be an hour, 2 hours away. Access to top tier healthcare can also be concerns. Seeing a specialist often means a long commute. You might have a 4 hour drive in one direction to get to the VA. Next is the social and cultural shifts. Small towns are close knit, and this can be wonderful, but it also means very little anonymity. You're not going to be able to keep it to yourself. Everybody going to be in your business. Everyone knows everyone, and if you value privacy, this can feel suffocating. Worst problem is that if you start dating somebody in a small town, everybody knows. Even though you don't know everybody, everybody knows what's going on in your relationship because your partner then told somebody who told somebody who told somebody, and 1,000 people later, some new person coming up. Oh, bless your heart. We were so hoping that Nancy was gonna find somebody. We thought she was gonna be single like Karen with 30 cats because Karen don't know how to behave. And you like, who the fuck is you? That situation. Michael says, can you walk dogs in the woods? You're hired. Bro, can you cut the trees down in the woods while you're walking the dog? That's two jobs. That's two jobs. And if those dogs can drag the trees back to the city, back to the town where you can start up a lumber mill, that is three jobs. Make sure y'all like and subscribe now. The slower pace of life can feel great, or it can feel stagnant if you always got to have something to do. You got to build new social circles, and building them can be tough, especially if you're not very sociable. You can be sociable for your occupation, always eagerly greeting people, eagerly walking up and engaging people for the sake of commission, for the sake of sales, for the sake of business. But for your personal life, you will find yourself the most antisocial person you have ever known, where the idea of having a communication with a complete stranger seems ridiculous, right? But if you end up feeling isolated and unhappy, it will absolutely affect your financial well-being, because you will end up spending more money on finding ways to occupy your time, whether it's video games, whether it's uh, uh, drinking, smoking, self-medicating, karaoke, bars, whatever the case may be. You better buy you some damn horses and start you a horse derby in your backyard. Living in a country is not going to be for everyone. It is not, because sometimes the fireplace just doesn't get the house hot enough. You'll be like, what was the name of that movie? Not 28 Days Later. Um, the one when the global shift and the uh winter came all the way down to Arkansas, where it was snow and ice, and where they had everybody was evacuating to Mexico because North America was frozen. That might be it. Green Acres, it flash freezing, that kind of stuff. Look, folks, if you was born and raised in heat, you are not gonna be okay in a place that is 30 degrees colder on a regular basis. You're not gonna be okay with that. That's gonna be where your light bill is gonna go up more. Your gas bill and your water bill is gonna go up more, because you're gonna have the heat on more than not, because it's too damn cold. But if you could put you some damn long johns on, grab you some socks, and get you some electric socks off of Temu and just warm your toes, you'll be all right. Um, Finally, those hidden costs are real. Needing two reliable cars is a major expense, even if they're not both insured at the same time. You might find yourself consistently driving back to the city for shopping or to see a friend, spending just as much money as you did before, only now you're also wasting hours in the car. You're trading convenience for space. You're trading um, anonymity for community. And if you aren't prepared for those trade offs, the financial benefits will feel hollow. So, the financial reality of small town life is complex and deeply personal. It's not a magic bullet, but for the right person, it can be incredibly powerful tools for building a richer life. And that's where I want to hear from you guys, because you guys got to share your own experiences in the community. Did you move from a city to a small town? What was the biggest financial surprise? Because if you're thinking about it, was it the the biggest thing that you had was fear or hope? Give us some ideas. Let's talk about that, because your story could help someone else make one of the biggest decisions of their lives. He said, "Oh, true. I do think you living in Washington State would be your style." I don't know, because I'm okay where I am right now, because I don't leave the house. I go outside, take dog out for a walk 3 times a day, get my sun, but I don't really have anywhere that I want to go. I'm tired. I'd have been socializing for 41 years. I don't want to talk to nobody. So outside of talking to y'all on the podcast, I don't want to talk to nobody. I'm friendly when folk come and talk to me, but do I make it a point to go look for folks? You feel me? I don't really. I don't. So, you know, I don't care, because I come out of Louisiana, so the weather can change dramatically, and I'm okay with it. As long as the light bill is under $100, I'm all right. And if the light bill goes over $100 2 months out of 12, I'm all right, because if I'm overpaying on a light bill every month, when the light bill is cheap, when a light bill does go up, it is already paid for in advance. one of the benefits of advance payments. One of the benefits of always putting your money down. Folks don't gotta worry about where they bill money coming from if next month and the month after is already paid. If you was living like I be living and you're paying for December and January in November, those folks that didn't get their paycheck in October don't give a fuck because you ain't got to pay for shit for 30 more days. You know what I'm saying? Now, if the shutdown lasts for 3 months, then you'd be a little bit pissed off. But, you know, it's one of them things that you can't control the future. But what you can do is you can try to prepare for most of it. So if you guys want more deep dives that break down the financial topics that actually matter, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, like Michael was saying, and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on what's next. So will you leave the city to make yourself rich, or are you willing to stay broke? The answer depends entirely on how you define what rich is. Because if rich is just the highest possible number on your paycheck, then no. A major city will almost always offer the highest absolute salary. But if your definition of rich is about financial resilience, about freedom, and about the gap between what you earn and what you need to live, then the answer is a resounding maybe. And we saw how a lower salary can lead to more disposable income when you lift the crushing weight of the city and housing costs. And we've seen how the remote work revolution is letting people combine high urban income with low small town expenses, creating financial superpowers. And we've seen how the lower barriers to entry in small towns can open up amazing opportunities for entrepreneurs in investing. Actually, matter of fact, he said, I'm just not spending until the government is back to work. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. There's a lot of things that you can benefit from this. Like, for example, hold on. I was looking at, where is that? I was just looking at it. Look, I misplaced it. I had it and it's gone. I had a list of the things because, like, for example, there was like a farm, not a farm thing. There was some other things that you could do, like being an online teacher. There's a couple things that you can do in small towns that not too many people think about. And these things could put a decent quantity of capital in your pocket. You would not have to really grind to get yours if you were in a position where, oh, yep, that's what happened. Yeah, lost it. That's all right. I'll add those unorthodox. Actually, no, hold on. I want to give it to you today. Hold on, because I wanted to. There it is. So there was organizing local events and like themed dinners, haunted house, scavenger hunts, and charge entry fees or sell refreshments. That's a good thing that you can make some money for in small towns. Offer niche services like pet grooming, bike repairs, custom painting. Mike, you paint. And if there's a little local competition, it's not that big because you're coming from big city things. teaching skills online or in person, like music, crafts, cooking, fitness classes, and using community centers or parks as venues. Which this is good stuff, because if you have competitive um, skills from the big city, and you take those skills and you teach people in small rural towns how to utilize those skills, they can pick up those skill sets from you and go into a big city and become successful, which means that, being a teacher of a trade is something that you can do. Leveraging local resources, you can start a roadside vegetable stand or a small batch of food production using homegrown or locally sourced ingredients such as jams, honeys, or baked goods. Um, you can rent out your personal items like kayaks, bikes, tools, or even backyard space for parties or camping. So, like Michael, you like to live out the back of your van. If somebody had 5 acres of land back there that you could just park your vehicles out there, and they had like extension cords where you could have your power to the car from inside and stuff like that, you can make money doing that. Uh, you have additional digital services outside of being a teacher. You can do freelance writing, graphic designs, vintage sales using sites like Etsy or eBay, reaching beyond the local market while still operating from the small town. So instead of being dependent on profiting from the small town, you can get money from outside of the small town and spend it in that small town. And then you have rent a friend or local guide services for newcomers or tourists needing connections or orientation to figure out how to get around into to the city. And I didn't even think of that until just today. And that's why I was like, man, I got to get this. Rent a friend. It's not an escort service, but it is fantastic. You need a homie? I'll do it for a price. Create quirky experiences such as mystery nights, escape room setups, legal escape room setups, because if you make an escape room that they can't escape, that's considered taking hostages. You don't want to be like Pastor Sharp. You have hobby-based clubs that you can do with the membership fee. So there are a lot of things that can be done to make a small side hustle on the side that not a lot of people think about, that'll be fantastically operated in a small town where people don't really pay attention to these things in bigger cities. We're more used to clubs and beaches and dance halls and movie nights, bowling alleys at best. And then outside of that, it's just finding some place to smoke weed and get drunk without getting arrested by the cops. Very limited selection, but profoundly all we seek after. It's really crazy. The trade-offs are real when you think about the difference between city life and rural life, but the move isn't for everyone, like Michael said. Ultimately, the decision isn't just about a spreadsheet. It's about asking yourself a fundamental question. What does rich really mean to you? Is it the number in your bank account or the freedom to live the life you actually want? Is it access to Michelin star restaurants or a backyard where your kids can play? Is it climbing a corporate ladder in a skyscraper or owning a business on Main Street and knowing your customers by name? There is no single answer, but by understanding these real numbers, you're empowering yourself to find the right answer for yourself. That's what I was trying to get out. Because it's actually, when you're making a big change, one of the things you want to think about is, what actually do you want to get from that? That's the main observation. Once you figure out what you're trying to get from that, that's when you're able to make those big moves. So this whole laundry list of things that you can do in a rural area that you can make substantial quantities of capital from, outside of things that you can do online that you can make substantial quantities of capital from, if you're banking on Um, and we were giving medium numbers. If you were banking on big city numbers and you found yourself with uh $1,500 a month worth of expenses, that means that you're paying about 17,000 a year. Your standard of living is under 20 grand. If you were making $70,000 for some reason and your standard of living is under 20 grand, you would still have 50 grand left over. And the idea is this is going to happen when you're living realistically in a cheaper environment, a rural environment. Now, take that same income and put it in a place like California where you need 250 grand to survive. You're not making enough. You got to borrow against a stone. You got to get roommates just to break even. You know, if you can find a way to do what you do in a cheaper location where the cost of living is less and you don't need a lot of the stuff that you had in a bigger city, then everything starts making more sense for you. Like I said, not only that, but most people are nice to each other. Yes. I ain't gonna lie though, over there by Walmart, they had some folks that cussing each other out about a gas station, and I was laughing. I was laughing, and the reason why I was laughing was because in this small behind town, there was 3 gas pumps. I was pulling up to one. This other vehicle pulled up to one. This car was mad because they wanted one, but I was leaving because I had been using the pump. So I'm leaving. And she cussing the man out, but the pump right next to me was available. So she didn't have to fight him for that pump because there was the one I was leaving off of and the one she could have got. I was just sitting over here laughing. And I'm like, what is you could have just waited. You could have waited till I put my car in gear and you could have parked right next to the man. You ain't had to cuss the man out. But people who are born and raised in a small town life, they don't know what they got. Imagine being in the big city where there isn't any functioning pumps because they ran out of gas. I'm just trying to tell you, there are times where when we're in the big city and we got to drive those long drives, there are times where we just wish that we had more time in our life. If our life was condensed to less obligatory effort and more voluntary effort, we will find ourselves in a more satisfactory position. That's where we are right now. So, with that being said, I'm going to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. But, fellas, I give y'all all of this information to help you become higher value men because, truth be told, fellas, if we didn't know this, we wouldn't be able to look into it so that we can make ourselves better. Well, ladies, this information isn't just for men. Y'all can take this and make yourselves higher value women as well. Finding the things that need to be changed in your life to make your life better than what it is your job to do. Proactively changing the things that are in your control, which is exactly right, Michael. Less noise, more happiness. And we're not just talking about less noise like the traffic outside, the trains passing by, the police sirens and helicopters and stuff. That's not just it. Because you have a lot of noise with mass requirements for social interaction just to get the job done. You've got to go talk to this person, go talk to that person. You got to go over here and go visit. You got to come back, checkmate, and then you have to try to get all of this stuff done in this 24-hour period instead of saying, you know what, I'll just deal with that tomorrow, right? But when you don't have a lot of things to do, because everything can get done in a shorter period of time, you might find yourself saying, you know what, I'll just go ahead and do it today because I ain't got nothing else to do. Less noise, less stuff stressing you out, the happier that you are. So with that being said, he's off to play chess, so am I. I want to say thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night. He said, lots of useless noise in the head. Bro, when you're sitting over there thinking about everything that you went through today, and some people go through a lot because if you're in New York or if you're in Chicago, You did almost got abducted a couple times. You got shootings. You've got riots. Your car almost got vandalized because it looked like the feds. If you was working on your job almost got burned down. Like, they got a lot of stuff going on in certain places where you got other places where it's almost like a ghost town. Everybody greet each other, but nobody really be outside. They don't got that much stuff going on. And when you do talk to somebody, everybody's happy, everybody's calm, everybody's peaceful. So yeah, and you're not really thinking about each person that was nice to you today. More often than not, people dwell on the people that were assholes. You know what I'm saying? So if you got less stress on your plate, you got less stuff to think about, you got less noise in your head, like Michael said. So on my way out the door, thank you guys one more time, and I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.
Thank you.